The hall was full of people. Bright lights reflected on polished floors. Loud voices mixed with soft music. It was supposed to be a celebration. The man stood tall near the center of the room. He wore an expensive suit and a proud smile. His arm rested comfortably around another woman. She leaned into him like she owned the place. A few steps away stood his wife. She wore a simple dress. No jewelry, no smile. Just quiet eyes full of patience. Beside her stood their two children. A young boy held his sister's hand tightly. They did not understand why their father was not standing with them. They only felt something was wrong. The woman next to the man looked at the wife. Her lips curved into a cold smile. She walked closer, slow and confident. Everyone watched, but no one spoke. Then it happened. Without warning, the woman raised her hand. A loud slap echoed across the room. The wife staggered back, shocked. Her face burned, but her eyes stayed calm. The children froze. The little girl gasped. The boy stepped forward, but stopped. He looked at his father. The man saw everything. He knew what just happened, but he did nothing. He looked away. That silence was louder than the slap. The wife did not cry. She did not scream. She slowly looked down at her children. Her heart broke, but her face stayed still. People whispered. Some looked away in shame. Others watched like it was entertainment. No one stepped in. The woman who slapped her laughed softly. She stood beside the man again, as if she had won something important. The wife gently touched her cheek. She knelt down in front of her children. Her voice was soft but steady. "It is okay," she said. But it was not okay. That moment changed everything. And the man had no idea. Because what he did not know was this. The woman he allowed to be humiliated, the woman he let be slapped in front of their children, was the real owner of everything around him. At this moment, the narrator speaks softly. This is Silent Family Tears, a place where quiet pain tells the strongest stories. If you feel these stories, subscribe now. And if this story touches your heart, leave a comment below. Continue the story. The wife stood up slowly. She looked at her husband one last time. There was no anger in her eyes, only clarity. The man felt something strange, a small unease in his chest. But his pride pushed it away. He believed he was untouchable. The event continued. Music played again. Laughter returned. But the children stayed silent. Later that night, at home, the house felt cold. The wife prepared food quietly. The children sat close to her. The man arrived late, still confident, still careless. The other woman was on his phone screen, smiling. The wife said nothing. She served dinner. She cleaned the table. She kissed her children goodnight. When the children were asleep, she stood alone in the living room. She looked at the family photos on the wall, photos of better days. A single tear fell, not from weakness, but from strength held too long. In another room, the man laughed on the phone. He believed power was on his side. He believed control belonged to him. But control had already shifted. The wife opened a small folder from a drawer. Inside were documents, legal papers, ownership papers. She closed the folder calmly. Her decision was made, not out of revenge, but out of protection. She whispered softly, "For my children." The hook ends here, with a question left in the air. What happens when the truth finally speaks? And silence turns into strength. Morning came quietly. Sunlight entered the house through thin curtains. The home looked peaceful, but the air felt heavy. The wife woke up before everyone else. She moved slowly through the kitchen. Her face showed no anger, only tired strength. She prepared breakfast like always. Toast, eggs, warm milk. Small things done with care. The children came in first. The boy looked serious, older than his age. The girl stayed close to her mother, holding her sleeve. Neither of them spoke. Their eyes still carried the memory of last night. The wife knelt beside them. She brushed their hair gently. She smiled softly, even when it hurt. "You will go to school today," she said. "Everything will be fine." The children nodded, but they did not believe it. The man came downstairs later, confident, relaxed, unchanged. He looked at his phone, not at his family. He sat at the table. He drank his coffee. He spoke without care. "We have an important week," he said. "Big decisions." The wife listened quietly. She placed his plate in front of him. She did not answer. The silence bothered him, but his pride was stronger. He ignored it. The other woman's name flashed on his phone again. He smiled. That smile hurt more than the slap. After breakfast, the children left for school. The wife watched them from the door. Her heart stayed with them. When the house became empty, She finally allowed herself to sit down. Her hands trembled slightly. She remembered the early years, when the man was not like this, when they struggled together. Back then, they worked late nights, shared dreams, shared hope. She helped him build everything. She handled papers. She invested her savings. She trusted him completely. But success changed him. Slowly, quietly, like poison. The respect faded first, then the love, then the loyalty. The wife stood up and walked into the study room. She opened the cabinet again. The same folder waited inside. She did not open it yet. She was not ready. Not for herself. She walked to the children's room. She touched their beds. She whispered promises only a mother makes. I will protect you. Meanwhile, the man arrived at his office. People greeted him with smiles. They feared him, admired him. He believed all of it belonged to him. Every wall, every desk, every voice. He talked loudly in meetings. He dismissed others easily. He felt untouchable. The other woman visited him at lunch. She laughed freely. She acted like the future was hers. She is weak, she said about the wife. She will never leave. The man agreed. He believed silence meant surrender. Back at school, the children stayed quiet. Other kids noticed their sadness. The boy clenched his fists. He felt anger for the first time, not at the woman, but at his father. That evening, the family sat together again. The man spoke about business. The wife spoke about homework. Two different worlds. One table. Later, when the children were asleep, the wife finally spoke. Do not bring her into our home, she said calmly. The man laughed. You are overreacting. That was the moment something changed. Not loudly, but deeply. The wife looked at him. Really looked. She realized he was already gone. She returned to the study room. She opened the folder this time. She read every page slowly. Her name was there, clear and legal, undeniable. She closed the folder. Her face was calm. Her heart was strong. This was not revenge. This was survival. Part 2 ends here, with silence growing heavier, and a storm preparing quietly. Days passed, but the house did not heal. The wife moved through her days like a shadow. Not weak, just careful. She woke up early every morning. She packed lunches. She tied shoelaces. She smiled for her children. But something inside her had closed. The children noticed it. The boy spoke less. The girl stayed closer. Both learned silence too early. At school, teachers said the boy was distracted. He stared out of windows, thinking of things no child should think about. The girl drew pictures. A mother holding two children, and a father standing far away. At home, the man became louder, more confident, more careless. He spoke openly on the phone. He did not hide her name anymore. He wanted power to be seen. The other woman started visiting the house. Not invited, but unchallenged. She walked in like she belonged there. She looked at family photos and smiled. She judged the wife with her eyes. The wife said nothing. She kept her head down. She focused on her children. The man noticed her silence, but he misunderstood it. He thought it meant defeat. One evening, the other woman sat in the living room, wearing confidence like jewelry. She commented on the house, on the furniture, on the wife's clothes. The children watched from the stairs, their hearts tight, their eyes wide. Your mother is too quiet, the woman said. She should learn her place. The man laughed. That laugh broke something invisible. The wife felt it, a deep crack inside her chest. Not pain, but clarity. She walked into the kitchen. She poured water into a glass. Her hands were steady. She returned to the living room. She placed the glass on the table. She looked at the other woman. Please respect my children, she said softly. The room went silent. The other woman rolled her eyes. The man frowned. Do not start drama, he said. The children lowered their heads. They felt shame that was not theirs. That night, the wife sat alone in her room. The lights were off. The window was open. She remembered her parents' words. Never lose yourself to silence. She had stayed quiet for years. For love. For family. For hope. But hope had limits. The next morning, she dressed carefully. Not beautifully, but confidently. She dropped the children at school. She kissed their foreheads. She whispered, I am here. Then she did something different. She did not go home. She drove to the old office building, the one from the early days, before success changed everything. Inside, people looked surprised to see her. Some remembered her. Some did not. She walked with calm steps. She asked for records. Old files. Old names. No one questioned her. Because legally, they could not. Meanwhile, The man sat in his large office, planning his future, planning without her. The other woman sent messages, demanding more attention, more promises. He felt powerful, unaware that power was slipping away. That afternoon, the wife returned home before the children. She sat in the study room again. She opened the folder, not with fear this time, but with control. She read every line again. She understood every word. She accepted the truth. This was no longer about love. This was about dignity. When the children came home, she hugged them longer than usual. They felt safety in her arms. The man arrived late again. He barely noticed. He never asked. Dinner was quiet. The silence heavy. The air tense. After the children slept, the wife stood at the doorway. She looked at the man. "Things will change," she said calmly. He laughed again. "You cannot do anything." She did not reply, because she knew something he did not. Part 3 ends here, with respect already dead, and consequences slowly waking up. The wife did not sleep much that night, not because of fear, but because of thoughts she could no longer ignore. The house was quiet, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. She sat by the window, watching streetlights fade, thinking about every choice she had made. She remembered the early days again, not with pain, but with honesty. She had trusted him completely. She had signed papers without question. She had believed love was enough. Those papers were still alive, still powerful, still waiting. Morning came slowly. The children woke up. They followed their routine. The wife helped them dress. She tied shoes. She fixed collars. The boy looked at her carefully. "Are you sad?" he asked quietly. She knelt down. She met his eyes. "I am strong," she said softly. He nodded, as if he understood more than words. After school drop-off, she drove somewhere new. Not home, not the old office. She drove to a legal building. Tall, cold, and serious. Inside, her footsteps echoed. She felt calm. She met with a woman behind a desk. They spoke quietly. They spoke clearly. Documents were placed on the table. Names, signatures, dates. The wife listened. She asked careful questions. She understood every answer. "Yes," the woman said. "You are the majority owner." The words settled slowly. Not like victory, but like confirmation. She left the building with steady steps. The sky looked different. Not brighter, but clearer. Meanwhile, the man was planning a big announcement. A public meeting. A moment to show his power. He invited important people. He wanted respect. He wanted control. The other woman stood beside him, smiling proudly, already imagining her future. At home, she walked through rooms carefully, touching walls, touching memories. She packed a small bag, not to leave yet, but to prepare. The children came home later. They laughed softly. They felt something changing. That evening, the man spoke loudly about the meeting, about success, about expansion. The wife listened. She nodded calmly. The other woman joined them again, uninvited, unashamed. She spoke about the future, as if the wife did not exist. The wife stood up slowly. She looked at both of them. "I will attend the meeting," she said. The room went silent. The man stared, confused. "Why?" he asked. "Because I should," she replied. The other woman laughed. "You do not belong there." The wife said nothing. She did not argue. She did not explain. That night, the children slept peacefully, unaware of what was coming. The wife sat beside them. She held their hands. She promised herself protection. The next morning, she dressed differently. Simple, but confident. She looked in the mirror. She saw not a victim, but a mother. At the office building, people prepared the room. Chairs aligned. Screens ready. The man walked in confidently. The other woman close behind. Then the wife entered. Quiet, unannounced. Some people recognized her. Some whispered. She took a seat calmly. She waited. The man noticed her presence. His smile tightened, but he continued. The meeting began. Charts appeared. Voices filled the room. The wife watched quietly. Not angry, not afraid. She waited for the right moment. Part 4 ends here, with truth sitting silently in the room, and power about to change hands. The meeting room felt colder than usual, not because of air conditioning, but because of tension. People sat straight in their chairs, eyes fixed on screens, pens ready. The man stood at the front, his voice strong, his posture proud. He spoke about growth, about power, about future plans. Numbers appeared on the screen, big numbers, impressive numbers. The other woman stood near him, watching faces, enjoying the attention. She believed this moment belonged to her. The wife sat quietly among the audience. Her hands rested calmly in her lap. Her face showed nothing. A few people noticed her. They whispered softly. They remembered her from the early days. The man avoided looking at her. He focused on control. He wanted to finish strong. Then a hand was raised. A board member spoke carefully. "We need to discuss ownership details," he said. The man smiled confidently. "Everything is clear," he replied. The wife took a slow breath. She felt her heart beat steady. Not fast. Not afraid. The board member continued. "There are documents that need clarification." The other woman shifted slightly. Her smile faded just a little. The man frowned. "Clarification about what?" he asked. A folder was placed on the table. Not the wife's folder, but a copy. The room grew silent. Screens went dark. Eyes moved from the man to the papers. The wife stood up slowly. Not dramatic. Not rushed. Every movement was calm. "I can explain," she said softly. The man turned toward her, anger flashing across his face. "What are you doing?" he asked. She did not answer him directly. She looked at the board. "These documents show the real ownership," she said. The other woman laughed nervously. "This is a mistake," she said. But no one laughed with her. The board member opened the folder. Pages turned. Names appeared. The man felt his confidence shake. Just slightly, but enough. The wife continued. "I never wanted to speak like this," she said. "I stayed silent for my children." She paused. The room listened. "But silence should not be mistaken for weakness," she added. The other woman stepped forward. "This is not your place," she snapped. The wife looked at her calmly. "It is exactly my place," she replied. The man finally spoke again. "You are trying to embarrass me," he said. She shook her head slowly. "I am protecting what belongs to my children," she said. The board members exchanged looks. The truth was becoming heavy. Legal terms were spoken. Dates were confirmed. Signatures verified. The man felt the room slipping away from him. His voice grew louder, but weaker. "This is not over," he said. The wife did not respond. She returned to her seat calmly. The other woman stood frozen, her future suddenly uncertain. Outside the meeting room, the world continued normally. Cars passed. Phones rang. Inside, a quiet storm had begun. That evening, the wife returned home early. She prepared dinner again. The children noticed her calm, different from before. "Are we safe?" the girl asked softly. The wife hugged her tightly. "Yes," she whispered. Later, the man arrived home late. Angry, confused. He confronted her. "You planned this," he said. She met his eyes. "I prepared for it," she replied. There was a difference. He realized something then. Not fully, but enough to feel fear. That night, the other woman called him repeatedly. He did not answer. For the first time, he felt alone. Part 5 ends here, with power slipping and truth standing tall. The next morning felt different. The air inside the house was heavy, not loud, but full of pressure. The wife woke up before sunrise. She stood quietly by the window, watching the city wake up. Her phone buzzed softly. One message, then another. Emails from lawyers, notifications from the company, questions waiting for answers. She did not panic. She expected this moment. In the other room, the man woke up angry, restless, confused. He checked his phone again and again. Missed calls, unread messages. The respect he once felt in his chest was gone, replaced by fear. At breakfast, the children sensed the tension. They ate quietly. The wife smiled gently. She poured milk. She spoke calmly. "Today will be busy," she said, "but you are safe." The man watched her carefully, trying to understand the woman in front of him. This was not the silent wife he ignored. This was someone else. At the office, whispers filled the halls. People avoided his eyes. Meetings were canceled. Appointments delayed. The other woman arrived later, her confidence shaken, her voice sharp. "What is happening?" she demanded. He had no answer. Inside the boardroom, legal teams gathered. Documents spread across the table. Names were read aloud. Ownership percentages confirmed. Every word pushed the man further back. The wife entered quietly, not alone this time, but supported by calm professionals. She sat at the head of the table, not by force, but by right. The man stood near the wall, his hands clenched. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. One lawyer spoke clearly. "This is legally verified." The other woman interrupted. "This cannot be real," she said. The wife finally looked at her, not with anger, but with truth. "You built your confidence on lies," she said softly. The words cut deeper than shouting. Outside the office, news spread quickly. Phones buzzed. Stories formed. The man's name was no longer spoken with pride, but with curiosity. By afternoon, the truth reached farther. Partners questioned trust. Deals paused. At home, the children waited, unaware of the storm growing outside. The wife returned early. She sat with them. She listened to school stories. She wanted their world to stay normal. The man came home late again. But this time, he did not feel powerful. He stood in the doorway, watching his children laugh softly. For the first time, he felt like an outsider in his own house. The other woman called again, crying, angry. He did not answer. He could not. That night, he sat alone in the living room, surrounded by things he thought he owned. Across the room, the wife stood calm, strong. "This did not have to happen this way," he said quietly. She nodded slowly. "I warned you," she replied. There was no victory in her voice, only finality. The man realized then, this was not revenge. This was consequence. Upstairs, the children slept peacefully, protected by a mother who refused to break. The house felt different. Not broken, but changed. Part 6 ends here, with lies exposed, and the fall becoming impossible to stop. The day arrived faster than expected. The building was full again, but the energy was different. Cameras waited outside. Voices filled the air. Curiosity replaced respect. Inside the large hall, people took their seats slowly, eyes searching for answers. The man entered quietly. No smile, no confidence. His shoulders felt heavy, his steps unsure. Behind him, the other woman followed, her face tense, her eyes sharp. She still believed she could control the moment. Then the wife entered, calm, composed. She did not rush. She did not hide. Some people stood up. Others whispered her name. She took her place at the front, not above anyone, but clear. The meeting began. A legal voice spoke first. Facts replaced opinions. Ownership details appeared on the screen. Dates, signatures, proof. The room stayed silent. Every breath felt loud. The man stared at the screen, his world shrinking with every word. The other woman shook her head. "This is fake," she said. But no one listened. The wife stood up slowly. She looked around the room. She spoke calmly. "I stayed silent for years," she said. "Not because I was weak." She paused. People leaned forward. "I stayed silent because I believed in family," she continued. The man lowered his head. The truth finally reached him. The wife looked at him, not with hate, but with honesty. "You allowed disrespect," she said. "You taught our children silence instead of safety." The children were not present, but every word was for them. The other woman interrupted. "You used him," she shouted. The wife turned toward her. "No," she said softly. "He used himself." Gasps filled the room. The words settled deeply. Security stepped closer, not to the wife, but to the other woman. She resisted, her voice loud, her control gone. The man did not move. He did not protect her, just as he once did not protect his family. As she was escorted out, her heels echoed loudly, each step a reminder of lost power. The room returned to silence. The wife took a breath. "This company will continue," she said, "but with respect." Board members nodded. Trust slowly rebuilding. Outside, news spread quickly. Stories changed direction. The man's name was now followed by regret. The wife's name by strength. Later that evening, the wife returned home. The children ran to her. They hugged her tightly. They felt safe again. The man arrived much later. He stood quietly, watching from a distance. The house no longer belonged to his ego. The children looked at him, their eyes curious, but guarded. He wanted to speak, but words felt empty. The wife knelt beside the children. She spoke gently. "Everything is okay now." The man felt tears rise, not from loss of power, but from loss of family. That night, he slept alone, surrounded by silence he created. The wife stood by the window again, but this time, her heart felt lighter. Part 7 ends here, with truth spoken aloud, and silence finally broken. Morning arrived softly. The house felt calm for the first time in years. Sunlight touched the walls. Not heavy, not cold. The children woke up smiling. They felt something had changed, even if they could not explain it. The wife prepared breakfast again, but this time her hands felt lighter, her breath steady. She watched her children eat, laugh quietly, argue over small things. Normal moments, precious moments. The man woke up later. He sat alone on the edge of the bed. The silence around him felt different now. Not angry, just empty. He looked at his phone. No missed calls. No messages. For the first time, no one needed him. At the breakfast table, he stood at a distance, unsure of his place. The children glanced at him, not afraid, but unsure. The wife spoke calmly. "Sit down," she said. Her voice held no command, only peace. He sat slowly, lower than before. They ate quietly. No tension, no shouting. After breakfast, the wife dressed the children, packed their bags. Before leaving, she turned to the man. "We need to talk tonight," she said. He nodded, knowing this talk would change everything. At school, the children hugged her tightly, longer than usual. "Are you happy?" the girl asked. The wife smiled. "Yes," she said. That word felt new. The day passed calmly. At the office, the wife handled matters with fairness. She did not humiliate. She did not take revenge. She corrected what was broken. Quietly, people respected her, not because of power, but because of balance. That evening, the house filled with soft light. The children played in their room, laughter echoing gently. The man sat across from the wife in the living room, his hands clasped, his eyes tired. "I lost everything," he said. She looked at him calmly. "You lost it when you chose disrespect," she replied. He swallowed hard. "I was blind," he said. She nodded. "Yes." Silence followed, but it was honest. "I want to fix this," he said. The wife stood up slowly. She walked to the window. She looked outside. "I already fixed what mattered," she said. She turned toward him. "Our children are safe." He felt tears fall. Not dramatic, not loud. "I want another chance," he whispered. The wife took a deep breath. "This is the final truth," she said. "I am not leaving because I hate you. I am leaving because I respect myself." The words settled deeply. They were final. The final twist came quietly. The next morning, the man signed papers, not for the company, but for custody agreements. He accepted shared responsibility, but not control. The wife did not take everything. She took what was needed. She moved with the children to a peaceful home, not far, but separate. The children adapted quickly. They laughed more. They slept better. The man visited, not as a ruler, but as a learner. The other woman disappeared from the story, without drama, without apology. Power left her the same way it came. Suddenly, months later, the wife watched her children play in the yard, sunlight on their faces. She felt no anger, no regret, only relief. She whispered softly, "Silence did not break me. It freed me." The story ends here, with a family rebuilt on truth, with a woman who chose dignity, and with a lesson that silence is powerful when it finally speaks.